Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Alright, so today I was actually supposed to release another video, but everyone was really interested in the Premier Cup. So the Premier Cup hosts a whole new different challenge compared to regular Master League because there's several differences between it. Now, with that being said, when you take away an element like legendaries, there's a whole lot of new things you can do because legendaries are so powerful because they do an enormous amount of damage. Now, because legendaries are taken away, that leaves it open to a whole new big meta that everyone can start doing crazy stuff, and then everyone can stop being like, okay, I don't have legendaries for Masters, so I don't have to play it. Guess what? There's the Premier Cup. And now we're going to explore just how the Premier Cup is one of the most. Actually, it's not that bad. It's actually really. I totally would play it. Like, if I wasn't so good at Master League, I definitely would play Premier Cup. I might actually play it, but here we go. Let's give it a shot. Alright, so here we have a Master League analysis. I'm going to compare Master League versus Premier League. So in Master League, the big difference between Masters and Premiers, obviously there's no legendaries, but the big key about the fact that there's no legendaries is that damage output is much less than Master League. If you see on the chart over here, a lot of the legendaries that you see out here do a ridiculous amount of damage. By taking away those legendaries, specifically Dialga, Mewtwo, Palkia, Groudon, all of those high output damage mons, you are left with a much more diverse meta that is able to do a lot more things than having legendaries with it would not. It's such a unique format because I don't understand. I get it. This is like a prototype feature. So like if y'all are asking for the ones for Ultra, I think they're just waiting because this is a test. I'm pretty sure a lot of battlers like me will be participating in the Premier Cup versus the Master League Cup. Of course, that also means there's a whole lot new challenges that we'll have to explore, and I will definitely be looking at that on this video today. But like I said, the big difference is the damage output is much less compared to Master League. So that means more options, and that means there's a lot more fun. As you see here, if you look at this infograph, there are either one or two multiple legendaries. This is the 420 Master League infograph that was published. As you see, the arrows that point over there, that's my team, the anti-meta team I created to break the meta, and has proven to be efficient, and hopefully it will prove efficient for Master League this season. But as you see here, my team, compared to the other teams, except for one team, only features one legendary. And that outside of the top 10. Because the Mewtwo that I have isn't even the top moveset, which was recommended at PvPoke at the time, which was actually Ice Beam Psystrike. So I used everything I used was under the top 20. Now I'm pretty sure the same thing can be done with the Premier League. So let's check it. I mean the Premier Cup, I apologize. Alright, let's get started and check it out. Alright, again, our pvpoke.com analysis. Now, again, make sure you guys consider donating to Kakuna Matata / Matt / the god of Autorec / an amazing human being. Make sure you consider donating to pvpoke.com. I wouldn't be able to do what I do. A lot of other great content creators you know on YouTube and on Twitch would not be able to do what they do if it was not for this website. Anyways, let's get started. So overall, you have a very powerful outlook on the Premier Cup. As you see here, no legendaries. All of these Pokemon are very powerful regardless if there are no legendaries or not. And you might see some familiar faces like Togekiss and Dragonite. They are still very powerful in this cup. As you see here, Dragonite is very powerful with Dragon Breath. Togekiss is very powerful with Charm. Now, Metagross, there are a few things here. I'm going to look at regular things, then I'll start looking at shadows, just because shadows are powerful in this cup. If you do have shadows, especially the ones you see over here on the top 10, Metagross, Snorlax, and Magnezone, I would definitely consider using them. Morely Snorlax, just because it's a lot easier, but then I'll go to shadows later. So right now we're just going to talk about regular Pokemon. As you see here, I can foresee the meta as being the big BBML. Everybody wants to know what BBML is. You know what the BBML is most likely? It's going to be Metagross, Togekiss, Dragonite. The reason being is because Metagross, if you look at Metagross, Togekiss, and Dragonite individually, you'll see that Metagross covers a lot of the BBML itself. You cover Togekiss, you cover Dragonite. Togekiss covers Dragonite, Garchomp, a lot of the closers, strong closers that you will see in this cup. And it also rules as the #1 attacker with 100% and #1 lead. So Togekiss is very powerful in this cup. You'll also see Dragonite, who just because of Dragon Breath does an obscene amount of damage, and Hurricane has a lot of coverage. If you do happen to encounter fighters or like some like grass Pokemon or like Hurricane will cover a lot of matchups. So Hurricane is very powerful. Now, that's the overall point. Now, this is very, like I said, it's a brand new meta with no legendary, so you are going to see a lot of spice or attempted spice here. If you want, I can totally tell you. The reason why no Metagross is #1 is because Bullet Punch and Meteor Mash and Psychic. That's a strong moveset. Meteor Mash does so much damage. Meteor Mash will one-shot a Togekiss. It does so much heavy damage against a lot of its positive matchups. You see here, Metagross is just very strong overall. So that's overall, that's Metagross. Like I said, BBML, Metagross, Togekiss, and Dragonite. This core is very powerful, so I can see it being ran a lot, especially a lot of you that probably already have Metagross, really strong Metagross, and Togekiss is already built. So because you already have those strong mons built, I can totally see the Togekiss Metagross core running rampant, and then having a closer. Of course, Dragonite is very popular, so you might see Dragon, you might even see Magnezone. So Magnezone, if you take a look at it, like I said, breaks the meta, does very strong against a lot of different picks, and again breaks the meta. So I would be very careful. As you see here, dominates as a closer just because a no shield wild charge will do heavy damage against Metagross and against Togekiss. We'll explore that later. But just to know, this is going to be a very sweaty cup. Of course, anything over Great League, even Great League itself in Season 2, is incredibly sweaty. You'll be asking yourself, what is in fact good? You know what is in fact good? It's called Togekiss. Your boy Togekiss is going to be really strong. There's a reason why it's a 100% as the lead and attacker, because it's very, very powerful. You beat a lot of the dragons, and at the same time, like Metagross, like it just has so much coverage and it does heavy damage. Charmers are powerful. So then, as we're gonna go, I'm gonna go down each tab, and then I'm gonna tell you I'll give you information about shadows and possible spice sticks that I see. So as far as the leads go, you do have to, like I said, Togekiss is the #1 lead, followed by Shadow Snorlax. Now, Shadow Snorlax, I will get into shadows later, but for now, since we're doing the leads, I'll take a look at it. As you see, Shadow Snorlax beats the entire BBML. It beats Metagross, it beats Togekiss because of the damage output it does. It does have a key loss versus Dragonite, but that's because of superpower. Depending on the scenarios, this rating with Dragonite might not be too bad. So but like I said, still very powerful lead, able to somewhat be a sponge because shadows take away some HP. It's usually the reason why Snorlax is heavily praised as shadow is because of its heavy damage output, because it's gonna lick you real good. Like it's gonna lick you really good. Like licks do a lot of damage, and then it gives you the body slams from heaven or from hell if you're in the opposing end. But you know what? That's what body slam does. So body slam is very good. So that's why you see the leads as it is. Again, you see a lot from the overalls in the top 10 in this list because they're just that good. Shadow Guard's one of those. You might, like, if you want to go to Charmtown, I'm not against it, but like I said, be very wary about the Togekiss Metagross core, because as you see, regardless of wherever Togekiss and Metagross land, or even Dragonite, they're still within like the top 10. So be very careful. Now, as your closers, you have Metagross Shadow as your first, followed by regular Metagross, Garchomp, Magnezone. As you see here, Magnezone, like I said, very powerful because of the Wild Charge. You'll see a big difference between of these lists is because the reason why they're so strong is because either one, they're community moves, which do a lot of damage anyways, or they're recently buffed moves like Wild Charge. Now, if you do happen to get the Wild Charge, and make sure you get the hell out of there, because being down 2 defense stages, just like a close combat, is not a good feeling, and you are not going to have a good time if your Magnezone that's debuffed is stayed in with the matchup. So just be very careful, like I said, when you're doing Mag Charge, when you're doing Wild Charge. Anyways, that covers your closers. Your switches will include, again, what did I say about the Metagross? The Gross. The Gross is still very, very powerful as a switch. And like I said, remember when I told you that a lot of the top 10 still on here, you still see Snorlax and you still see Electivire just because of Wild Charge. And then you have Mamoswine, you have switches, etc. Like a lot on this list. Like I said, I'll cover Spice and I'll cover Shadows in a bit. Your charges, of course, number one is the Metagross, and the second is Electivire because of the Wild Charge. Wild Charge is just so good. It's so good. I'm not gonna go over the attackers and consistency because I feel like there's no point. Like, yes, attackers and consistency matter, but however, if you like, because most Master League, like almost all Master League Pokemon system maxed out do heavy damage, I wouldn't worry too much about the attackers or the consistency. As far as you know, as far as you see, the consistency with 100% is many in the Premier League. There's a lot of great picks that can go into your team. However, with perfect practice and analysis, only can a team be good to your standards, and it can break a meta like I did in Season 1. Anyways, I'm going to get started with the shadow analysis next. So the shadows are, in fact, very, very powerful. If you look over here, if we put in the shadows, if I do and just type in regular shadows, what you get here is you get a powerful list of shadows that are within the top 15. Shadows make up, fun fact, shadows make up for most of the top 10. If you look over here, like literally, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, not the most, but you know what? They're pretty dang half. They make up 40% of the top 10. In the top 10 picks, 4 of them are shadows. As far as your leads go for Shadow, as you see here, like I said, Shadow Snorlax is so powerful. It's very powerful. Lick and Body Slam, the reason why it's so powerful is because Shadow does more damage with the exception of Bulk. However, Lick and Body Slam just do so much damage with that output. You beat the BBML core. You may lose best Dragonite, but it's not a hard loss. So it's not a super hard loss. So like I said, Shadow Snorlax is very powerful. Your closers and switches are dominated by shadows. Closers and switches dominate the shadows, especially Shadow Metagross. So good. The reason why it's so good is because look at what it loses against. You won't see a lot of those, and it just has a ridiculous damage output with Bullet Punch, Meteor Mash, and Psychic. Now, the reason why I play Shadow Metagross so much, I would be very careful though. If you do look at this, Shadow Metagross does require an Elite TM. So if you need an Elite TM in order to make anything viable for Premier Cup, I would really consider it. Regular Metagross isn't bad. It's just the damage output you get with Shadow is ridiculous. That's why Shadow dominates in so many categories. Like I said, if you do consider using Shadows, be very careful because Elite TMs are very valuable. And unless you have a Shundo Shadow Metagross or something of that sort, something really sweet, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. It's just so expensive, especially Master League is very expensive. So consider your shadows, but like I said, be very aware of whether or not you need an Elite TM to make them happen. Shadow Snorlax kind of more forgiving in that department because you don't need an Elite TM. Like in Body Slam and Superpower or available movesets without using Elite TM. Nothing's Legacy. So that's shadows in general. As far as spice goes, my spice picks for the Premier Cup actually, like, shadows are pretty spicy just because of how expensive they are, but like I said, they're expensive. So, like, if you don't want to run shadows, that's fine. But shadows, do consider them, they're very powerful. But as far as spice picks go, I can totally see Glaceon being very powerful just because of Icy Wind. So Glaceon's the highest pick on here with a debuff move, not one that purposely debuffs yourself, of course. But as you see here, it does have strong matchups against the leads. If you do win the lead with it, Icy Wind can punish those in the back. I'd be very careful though because Metagross and Snorlax will get in your way. And your only moveset line is Icy Wind, Avalanche, and Last Resort. Like I said, very powerful KO moves against strong typings. Other than that, like I said, be very careful. Glaceon was one of the things I was considering. Gyarados is also kind of an interesting pick because you lose against Togekiss. However, you beat Metagross, you beat Swampert, you beat Snorlax, you beat Mamoswine, and Crunch just has such good coverage. Crunch and Outrage can take out your dragons, and you can take out Metagross. So Gyarados is another interesting pack. Now, the packs that you see here for pickings, there's not a lot of like spice packages. I'm sorry. Like as much as I want to like hype up Premier Spice, there is potential spice. However, you're gonna have to do a lot of trial, error, and experimentation because a lot of the picks you see below the top 10 are either non-particularly powerful mons or they don't max out at particularly high CPs. That's why they're so strong. A lot of the times also you might also already have Metagross and Togekiss already rarely available, whether it be for Master League from last season, from season 1, or if you use them in your raids very heavily. So, like I said, you still like availability is also why these top 10 are very strong. It's very likely you already have these or you already have them maxed out. So why not use them? Anyways, on spice picks that I've been looking at are that I don't know if I consider Magnezone spicy, but it does break the core. As you see here, you do beat the Togekiss Metagross core, and it does heavy damage against all other picks, and it doesn't have a bad match against Dragonite either. Like I said, maybe, maybe. Now, outside of the top 10, some have asked me, can you use Hydreigon in Premier Cup? My answer is maybe, but also no. And the reason because is that with Togekiss is running around rampant, it's not particularly strong, and also because Metagross does it only has a strong Metagross against a strong matchup against Metagross if there's no shields and if you can fire the Dark Pulse. That's literally it. Other than that, you don't have a strong matchup with Metagross and Togekiss, which are going to be two pretty popular skills from IC. You also lose against Dragonite, just because Hydreion's kind of squishy unless it resists the moves that it's getting thrown at. It can't take a lot of damage, and that's why Dark Pulse and Flash Cannon are the way they are. Now, like I said, wouldn't recommend using them. Wouldn't recommend using them. However, there is one interesting pick that I would consider. How many of you love Gengar? A lot of you love Gengar, right? Well, here's the thing about Gengar. Gengar hasn't came out with its preferred set with Shadow Punch and Sludge Bomb. So this is the one shield. Watch what happens. This is 55%, right? Now, assuming we keep Sludge Bomb for the Charmer. Let's do Shadow Punch. So if we just put Shadow Punch on here and get the baitable move from one, here's what we will see. It's a very interesting thing. You jump all the way to 64%. A 9% increase is huge. And a Shadow Punch Gengar with Sludge Bomb can serve as a great shield baiter plus a great sweeper. But if you take a look, 62% as two shields, very powerful, very good mod, very good mod. Something I would consider because Gengar does resist charms and shadows do a lot of damage. Now I'd be a little careful because if you do get the Snorlaxes running around, you kind of need Sludge Wave. So like I said, be very careful. But this is like you can also run Shadow Punch with Focus Blast. I'd be really careful about being that spicy though. Focus Blast will give you a chance against Snorlax, but like I said, that's a little too spicy because pretty much it's gonna give you a rough time. If you But like I said, if you want to run Spice, make sure you do your research. Gengar is one of the ones I was looking at. Like I said, kind of like with the bait move with Shadow Punch could be very interesting. But like I said, be very careful. And also, so that's if you like overall analysis, Premier League is going to be pretty sweet. The problem is here, even though you might be able to find there are viable spice picks in this meta, but because everything in Masters does so much damage, there's going to be a lot of trial and error before you find one that can consistently win. As you see here, I gave you my picks, what I think might be spice. The newer Pokemon like Excavalier with Drorun do have some play in it, but you do lose against Dragonite and Togekiss, and it's kind of ironic because Dragonite does resisted damage, but Dragon Breath hits so hard at Master League. That's why it's so strong. Like I said, before you consider Spike Picks, be very careful because the Togekiss Metacore is so strong that when you scroll down, I guarantee you will see those top meta counters just right in your face. For example, let me go over here. Let's go down to, let's see, for Alligator, for example. You will beat Metagross. You will always beat Metagross against Togekiss. You see that? You see how the pattern here? If you want to use Spice, be sure you are able to beat both Metagross and Togekiss in any scenario because you will see these a lot. But then again, all right, let's go wrap it up with key summaries. But yeah, that's my analysis. Basically, do your homework. I laid out some spice picks I would consider, but like I said, if you want to pick a spice pick, make sure it can beat both Metagross and Togekiss. All right, that's where these two are your big problem childs. This is what you want to focus on. All right, so a summary of the key points that we have over here is that please do your homework. There's a lot of viable picks for Premier Comp. However, like I said, if you are considering a spice pick like I did with Gengar, make sure you do your homework, make sure you train, run a bunch of sims, and make sure that works out. Consider Pokemon that you already built because the resources you have are valuable. You will never get your Stardust back. You're only going to get it back by grinding. So be very considerate of what you've already built and what already has community moves. And also be very careful. Speaking of community moves, make sure you be very careful about using late TMs. Because the Pokemon you use might not be viable for Season 3. I don't like, just like how Palkia and Groudon shook the stage for Master League for Season 2, I'm not very sure how this season will be shaped if they release more Pokemon for Season 3, which is very possible. And Master League and Premier Cup Season 3 can be very different as we know it, so be very careful about using your Elite TMs and or powering up Shadow Pokemon and using your resources. As far as predictions go, I do think Togekiss and Metagross are going to go run rampant. It's such a strong core just because both of them complement each other very well, and there's a reason why, because they do a lot of damage in a short amount of time, and they, like I said, they have covered each other's weaknesses very well. And I don't think Dragonite might be seen as much as we think because of Togekiss's existence. Because Togekiss, a lot of battlers, because Togekiss was heavily used in Master League before, a lot of people already have Togekiss built, so why not use it? Like I said, make sure you be careful because Togekiss might be running rampant. Now we won't know until we won't know a hard pattern until the season actually starts. So once the season actually starts, I'll do a day one analysis so we can totally take a look and I can get more prediction and on the patterns. So because patterns are important. Like I said, be very careful. Make sure you consider the key points. And like I said, my predictions are that Togekiss will be around a lot because a lot of people have already powered one up and it's very strong. So please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys want me to do analysis on anything, please say so in the comments below. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Again, like, share, subscribe. If you guys want to see any Pokemon in particular analysis, please comment and I will consider doing it. And then, like I said, look out for that day one analysis because once day one Premier Cup drops and I see the meta, I'll be able to analyze patterns a lot better and create a team that will allow you to climb very consistently. Thank you for watching and you guys have a wonderful day and make sure y'all just keep on tapping.